In the hallway, amidst a crowd of people, John and Cassian deftly draw their guns and fire with precision. The shots are executed so smoothly and silently that no one notices and chaos does not erupt. The sequence kicks off with John retrieving his stolen Ford Mustang from Abram Tarasov, the brother of the deceased Viggo. In a brutal confrontation, Wick defeats Tarasov's henchman, causing significant damage to the Mustang. However, he chooses to spare Tarasov, seeking peace, before heading back home. Subsequently, Wick entrusts the repair of his Mustang to Aurelio, the owner of a chop shop. John chases down a motorcyclist, eventually causing the rider to crash and securing an invitation card that leads him to Abram's whereabouts. It turns out that Tarasov is Viggo Tarasov's brother. Upon learning of John's pursuit, Abram wastes no time in shutting down his operation. One of the henchmen, overly confident, belittles John and brags that he can handle him alone. He questions Abram, wondering if risking everything for a mere car is rational. But Abram sets him straight, clarifying that this isn't just any car, it's John Wick's car. This is the man who took down his nephew, brother, and numerous henchmen over a car and a puppy. Abram stresses that John Wick is a man of intense focus, commitment, and unwavering determination. He recounts the instance when John eliminated 3 men using only a pencil. In the interim, John successfully locates his cherished Ford Mustang and heads straight for Abram's hideout. However, he is pursued by Tarasov's men on the way. Regrettably, his car is struck by an assailant, with another joining in to further damage his Mustang. Yet, a lone motorcyclist follows him, firing shots. To halt the pursuer, John sacrifices one of his doors. Unexpectedly, he is forced out of his vehicle and into hand-to-hand combat. As anticipated, he swiftly deals with his adversaries. Eventually reaching Abram's location, the man is visibly frightened for his life. After a tense confrontation, John Wick surprisingly spares Abram Tarasov's life, extracting a promise that they will never cross paths again. With this truce in place, John retreats to his home, having accomplished his mission. Seeking solace, he begins to let go of his past as a hitman, burying mementos associated with that life. John's newfound goal is to embrace a simple existence, mourning the loss of his wife. As dusk settles, John receives an unexpected visitor, Santino D'Antonio, a notorious figure from the criminal underworld. Santino reminds John of their shared history, the impossible task John completed, enabling him to retire and marry Helen. In return for this favor, John had made a sacred promise, symbolized by a medallion marked with his own blood. Now, Santino has come to collect on that debt. John, despite multiple compelling reasons, declares he's retired from the game. Santino reacts harshly to this refusal. He retaliates by attacking John's home with a grenade launcher, setting it ablaze. Miraculously, John and his dog survive the assault, watching their memories burn. Homeless, John seeks refuge at the Continental Hotel in New York with his loyal dog. Seeking guidance from Winston, he receives a stern reminder. Rejecting the marker would violate 2 underworld rules: no killing on Continental grounds and honoring all markers. The D'Antonio family's power stems from their association with the High Table, a council of 12 influential crime lords governing all Continental hotels globally. Confronted by this grim truth, John has no choice but to reluctantly honor his promise. Meeting Santino, the latter wastes no time in assigning John the grim task of assassinating his own sister, Gianna. Santino desires Gianna's position at the High Table, a status their father believes rightfully belongs to her. Committed to his word, John agrees to undertake the mission. John visits his storage unit to gather essentials before flying to Rome. At the Roman Continental Hotel, he is warmly greeted by Julius, the manager. When Julius jokes about targeting the Pope, John assures him that's not the case and gains access to the hotel's amenities. He then visits a tailor who specializes in crafting bulletproof clothing for assassins. Afterward, he gears up with weapons. The shopkeeper, aware of John's reputation, supplies him with the necessary arsenal. To locate Gianna, John seeks help from a contact who provides him with a blueprint of her whereabouts for strategic navigation. As night descends, fully equipped for the impending battle, John infiltrates the event celebrating Gianna's rise to the high table seat. He confronts her in a dressing room, leading to a moment where Gianna chooses to meet her fate on her own terms. After ensuring the success of his mission by fulfilling the marker with a fatal shot to Gianna's head, John moves to leave. However, Gianna's bodyguard, Cassian, spots him and recognizes his purpose instantly. Realizing John's role in Gianna's demise, Cassian triggers a rapid shootout. John swiftly engages, maneuvering through a concert venue while exchanging gunfire with his adversaries. Breaking free from the chaos of the concert, John faces more foes but remains resolute, defeating about 6 adversaries before swiftly changing his path to navigate the city's underground catacombs. In these winding tunnels, he encounters Ares, Santino's loyal bodyguard. Unexpectedly, a double crossing occurs as an ambush unfolds. In the ensuing chaos, John's exceptional skills and precision shine. Each target he focuses on meets a swift demise. With remarkable ferocity and efficiency, he embarks on a rapid killing spree, swiftly dispatching 12 men within roughly 45 seconds. John narrowly escapes the catacombs but gets hit by a car on the street, with Cassian stepping out and opening fire. They engage in intense hand-to-hand combat, showcasing their strength and skill as they trade blows and struggle for dominance. Their battle abruptly halts as they crash into the lobby of the Continental Hotel, respecting the hotel's rule against killing on its premises. In an unexpected turn, they find themselves in the hotel's bar. John explains his mission's motive, revealing Santino's involvement, but Cassian remains resolute in seeking revenge. Later, Santino calls John, acknowledging his feelings of betrayal and expressing understanding toward John's potential anger. In a surprising turn, Santino places a $7 million bounty on John Wick's head, framing it as retribution for his sister. As dawn breaks, John prepares to leave the Continental Hotel in Rome, gearing up for his journey back to New York City. The lucrative contract captures the attention of elite assassins worldwide. Meanwhile, Santino meets with Winston, who requests a blood oath to confirm John's completion of the mission and release from obligations. Santino nonchalantly dismisses this, assuming John won't survive his return. Winston warns Santino of his grave error, emphasizing the danger of betraying someone like John Wick, a formidable adversary. He likens Santino's actions to betraying a powerful force, pushing John back into a life he tried to leave behind. Upon his return to New York City, John is not welcomed with open arms but with a barrage of bullets from assassins vying for the $7 million bounty. As he navigates the city, John, a renowned assassin, endures relentless attacks, turning his homecoming into a deadly test of survival. The assassins soon realize that eliminating John Wick is no easy task. His journey through the subway system leads to a showdown with Cassian, where they engage in a quiet gun battle using silencers to avoid causing panic. The conflict escalates into a fierce hand-to-hand struggle, culminating in John critically injuring Cassian by stabbing him in the aorta. Following this intense battle, John, now seriously wounded, seeks aid. Offering a gold coin to a beggar, he secures assistance to extricate himself from danger. With his injuries throbbing, John seeks help from an underground crime figure known as the Bowery King. In the hidden refuge of the underworld, John receives care for his wounds, offering some respite. However, he requires more than just medical attention. He implores the Bowery King to utilize his vast underground connections to locate Santino. Additionally, John seeks weaponry to aid in his quest. The Bowery King expresses curiosity, questioning the rationale behind his involvement. John highlights the severe repercussions of Santino gaining a high table seat, a loss of the Bowery King's authority, diminishing resources, and a decline in control over his underground empire. The prospect of John Wick confronting a high table member intrigues the Bowery King, piquing his interest in the unfolding events. After weighing John's arguments, the Bowery King agrees to assist him. Providing John with a gun containing only 7 bullets, each symbolic of $1 million from the bounty, he directs John to an art museum where Santino is hosting a gala. Determined and armed, John penetrates the museum gala. As John enters, the crowd recognizes him, parting in fear. With precision, he dispatches 7 of Santino's men, each bullet finding its mark. Depleted of ammunition, John retrieves a weapon from a fallen foe, relentlessly pursuing Santino and eliminating his henchmen along the way. The pursuit leads John into a mirror maze, a disorienting space challenging his sense of direction. Amidst this confusion, Santino's formidable security enforcer, Ares, arrives with a group of guards, intensifying the already challenging situation. John continues his relentless advance, systematically dismantling Santino's security detail one by one. After eliminating the final henchman, he creates a clear path for himself. In a climactic showdown, John confronts Ares in a fierce close-quarters battle, pushing both combatants to their limits. Despite the intense struggle, John emerges triumphant, leaving Ares defeated. Amidst the turmoil, Santino slips away and seeks refuge within the Continental Hotel. John swiftly follows, seeking Santino's location from Chiron. Directed to the hotel lounge, John encounters Winston, the hotel's owner, who urgently advises him against violating the hotel's cardinal rule of no killing, emphasizing the severe repercussions of such actions. John, fed up with the turmoil caused by Santino, retaliates. After his life is upended by Santino's schemes, his home demolished, and his peaceful existence shattered, John takes matters into his own hands, defying Winston's caution to eliminate Santino in a single swift strike, plunging the criminal world into disarray. Burdened by Santino's demise, John abruptly leaves the Continental, seeking solace in his former residence and reminiscing about his late wife, a sharp contrast to his violent present. The next day, guided by Chiron, John faces Winston in a park, realizing the gravity of his actions as he violated the Continental's code by slaying Santino on its premises. As a consequence, the high table doubles and expands the global bounty on John's life. In response, Winston declares John banished, stripping him of all underworld privileges. Despite this, Winston offers John a 1-hour head start out of professional courtesy before the punishment takes effect. He hands John a marker symbolizing a debt that can be repaid for future assistance. In the park, all attention turns to John as he prepares to depart. Promising to retaliate against anyone who crosses his path, John receives Winston's acknowledgement before leaving with his dog. At the end of the hour, Winston officially enacts John's banished status. As phones ring in the park, signaling the start of the hunt, a determined John sets off, running into an uncertain future as the film reaches a tense conclusion, leaving his destiny hanging in the balance.